Every time I think about math, a sense of fear and dread comes over me. Every single math class that I experienced throughout middle school and high school was a lecture-heavy class. The desks were in neat rows, there were no students collaborating and talking with each other, and there was no critical thinking involved. Sadly, there are still math classes and math teachers that teach this way. This past semester, I was given the privilege of taking a math class through the education department at Abilene Christian University and was able to teach a small group of 5th graders at Ward Elementary for 45 minutes, once a week for 6 weeks. This math class at ACU taught and challenged me to teach math that is more engaging, diverse, and challenging for all students. I learned how to do this by writing and teaching effective lesson plans using meaningful manipulatives and assessing the students using diverse assessments. I highly believe that as a teacher, we need to provide authentic and engaging instruction that provides our students with opportunities to learn and grow so that they can take ownership and, like Piaget's constructivism theory says, construct their own knowledge. During this class, I was given the wonderful opportunity to teach a lesson plan to students that I had written for the very first time. Very quickly after the first time teaching in the field, I learned that teaching what you write on your lesson plans does not always go how you planned it to go. When I write out my lesson plans, I can somewhat think of what questions my students will have when I am teaching the lesson. However, I cannot think of every single question that my students might ask, and most of the time, other questions come up that rely on me to veer off the lesson plan to answer. So this experience really challenged me to think outside the box and be able to veer off the lesson plan a little bit. It has also taught me that teachers need to be very flexible and be able to adapt and change their lessons to fit each student's questions and learning needs. In order for me to answer a question a student had, to further explain a concept, and to teach the concept in a different way, I learned that the use of manipulatives and different math tools aided me in this. When I began this semester, the manipulatives I used for my lessons consisted of task cards and worksheets. However, at the end of the semester, I was using colorful foldables, food menus, card games, and bingo game boards. By using more creative and engaging math tools, I could see that my students were understanding and enjoying the lesson much more than before. I was also able to see Vygotsky's social constructivism theory through the use of engaging manipulatives because the students were able to collaborate and learn through interacting with each other using the different math tools. And I believe that manipulatives and math tools should be authentic, engaging, foster social interaction, and be accessible to all students, and should aid in their learning as they construct their own knowledge and understanding of the subject. Another insight that this teaching experience at Ward Elementary has given me is that no two students are the same. So when I am teaching, I need to make sure and be aware of these differences and respond to these by changing and adapting my lesson plans and teaching. Each week we were in the field, my teaching partners and I had different students that we taught. Since we taught different groups of children every week, we had to be aware and observe how each child learned best. Then, based on how each child learned, we needed to be able to tailor the lessons to each student's individual learning style. So being flexible was a key component when it came to teaching these lessons because no two students are the same and learn the same. Lastly, I've learned how important authentic assessments are in the classroom. For the first lesson plan my group and I wrote, the assessment portion was the part that we spent the least amount of time on. The checklist we wrote was not descriptive and just scratched the surface level learning. However, after learning that assessment plays a huge role in teaching, instead of just assessing if the students got the correct answer, we wrote the processes that a student would need to understand in order to gain the conceptual knowledge of the subject. I could really see Piaget's constructivism theory as I used this new in-depth checklist because it allowed me to ask questions about why the procedures worked, if it will look the same under different circumstances, and what the math process the students were doing looked like. Overall, getting this wonderful experience has been very helpful and has allowed me to grow in the way I teach math concepts and utilize my math lessons, manipulatives, and assessments. I learned that math is a very abstract concept, and that in order for my students to fully grasp the concept I teach them, they must be able to understand and comprehend what it is exactly I am teaching them, and then be able to construct their own knowledge. I also learned that since children must construct their own knowledge, this process takes time and practice. So as teachers, we need to be sure to be patient and try not to rush this process. I believe that education is the most powerful tool available. Through education, I can equip my students to be successful in the classroom and in life.